What's up, Internet Land? This is Zachamus Prime, aka Zachamus Prime, bringing you another Transformers third-party review. This review is brought to you today by Titanonetoys. Titanonetoys, great place. Check him out. Facebook, eBay, drop him online, see what he's got, see what he can get for you. Good place right there. The figure we are going to be reviewing today is the Zeta Toys Racket. And I know that he kind of looks like Swindle, but no. Because yeah, if he was Swindle, that would be bad. Somebody else already owns Swindle. No, this is, Racket. He only kind of looks like Swindle. And he's only he's part of a group that only coincidentally looks like what Hasbro refers to as Combaticons. But it couldn't be the same thing. No. There's no way. But yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I am completely in love with the Unique Toys Combaticons, and I found the Zeta Toys Combaticons to be good figures, with really good alt modes, and they're gonna have a pretty good combined mode. One may even say really good combined mode, and their robot modes kind of are obnoxious. Of the four that I reviewed, this guy actually has the least obnoxious robot mode. He's fairly low on the kibble department. I mean, yeah, he's still got some, but it's not nearly as bad as the other ones. So that's something definitely going for him. He does have that big Zeta Toys chunky factor that a lot of the figures seem to have. Just big blocks of. There we go. Sorry, my elbow was doing things that it shouldn't have done. And yeah, he does seem to be made out of a collection of boxes. Kind of like a person wearing a cardboard box suit. But, you know what? It's all good because, personally, I think that Transformers should be kind of boxy anyhow. So, aesthetically, I think that this is actually the best of the Zeta Toys Combaticons that I've reviewed so far. His transformation is actually pretty good, and I mean, he seems to be a pretty solid figure all around. The kibble doesn't get in the way of his posability as much as it does for some of the previous figures. And yeah, I think it's pretty decent. In terms of accessories, he comes with this little pistol here. It'll just fit into his hand. It has like the slot in the handle that the Constructicons had, but he doesn't have a corresponding tab in the hand. He can hold it there just fine. Go like shoot somebody, shoot. In his other, if my mouth will work for a moment, his other accessory is this big gun that you often see with Swindle analogs. Interestingly enough, this gun here is molded in this dark gray plastic, but these little missiles here are molded in this shade of plastic and then painted black. So I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't just mold those in black plastic as well. It seems like that would be the most rational thing to do, but far be it for me to decide rationality. Anyhow, he's got a standard 5mm peg, which I mean, he doesn't really hold it because it's not long enough. You can plug it into his arm here. He does have a couple other. Let me see where else. You can plug it onto his shoulder like that. At first glance, I thought maybe you could use one of these pegs, but these pegs go right behind his head, and so that can't be used. No, the only sensible place to put it is right here on his arm. And it sticks out really far, and it's on this hinge. And I don't think it looks very good there, to be perfectly honest. I don't like that. So I'm not going to do it. I know that somebody like MGO would say, your toy, do with it as you wish. Well, this isn't my toy. But I'm going to pretend that it is for the next few minutes. So, in terms of posability, his head is on a ball joint. Allows for a little bit of moving around, rotation just fine. Up and down a little bit, stuff like that. He does have, he's got a double jointed shoulder. So, he's got a joint right in here that moves it out like that. But then he has a joint up here that moves it out like that. And I think that for moving out, like, it's probably more kinesthetically pleasing instead of using this joint to use this joint. I think that works with how the motion of the figure works better, if that makes any sense whatsoever. He has a upper bicep swivel, a bend at the elbow for just under 90 degrees, rotation at the wrist. His four fingers move out. They are each individual fingers. They're actually all identical individual fingers, and this one appears to have just the tiniest bit of flesh on it. But oh well, what you do. I mentioned that already. He's got this joint right here, which is fun. I'm definitely not gonna like knock on it or anything like that. It does tend to do what it wants to do when it wants to do, which makes him get some crazy posability, some like crazy poses out of this. He also has your basic swivel down here. At the hips, he's got the full Van Damme. Upper thigh swivel. His knees are technically double jointed, allowing for a really deep bend. Part of me wants to say that this lower joint is actually a transformation joint, but it looks fine enough that I would just straight up say, yeah, I mean, it's used for the transformation, but it can be a knee joint as well. If you were to use just this joint, it would be 90 degrees, so I think that using that like a double joint is perfect. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that his hips are ratcheted as well, which does cause some issues when it comes to posability, in that you can get like just a few poses, and it seems all too often it wants to pose in such a way where one of the hips clicks out and the other one doesn't, you know, which combined with his waist joint doing weird stuff, he just, you know, it tends to make his hip all like weird like that. And he's like, combined with his expression, he's like, hey guys, what's up? So, a little bizarre there, but you know, Swindle is kind of bizarre anyhow. His ankle has got full tilt to the front. Whoa, stay. Full tilt to the front, a little bit of tilt to the back. It's on this little hinge here, this double hinge here, plus a no, it doesn't rotate. So so you can use this in several ways to make different angles to his foot. You can also pull that out and extend it, but then you sacrifice pretty much all stability in the figure whatsoever, because this joint is not the most solid for a figure of this size. He does also have pretty decent ankle tilt. Actually, it's a really decent ankle tilt. It's not quite enough to catch up with his full Van Damme, but you know what? Van Damme it, it's all right. I like it. One other feature he's got in this mode is so he's got his chest and crotch plate that are more like his toy aesthetics. You can take this and you can pull this out, flip it around, and then push it back in. Same with his chest. Pull that out, flip it around, push it back in. And now he has more like his animation aesthetics. And I think that that's a really nice feature. I like that feature. I do think that since pretty much nothing else on the figure really looks like its animation aesthetics, switching over to that is a little bit of disparity. But you know, it's a great feature, and it's nice that they have it in there. He does, by the way, have hip skirts that move around, and they move just as well in either mode. One thing I do want to point out is when it's in this mode, you probably saw it moving around a lot. It's because there's nothing that keeps this in place. When you put it around here, this little depression in here fits into, there's a little feature that sticks out right here. Looks like a hatch, but it doesn't do anything. Anyhow, it fits right over that and actually prevents it from rotating around. So that's something. But yeah, in this robot mode, I think it looks pretty good. His colors are decent. His look is pretty decent. A little chunky, but I mean, he's the least chunky of all the Combaticons so far, and I think he's gonna look great standing with them all. Once I get them all in hand, I'll be sure to show you guys. But to get this guy transformed up, what we want to do is open up the chest, flip his head around. There's one thing that I'd like to point out. Well, actually, okay, when it comes to flipping his head around, you'll notice that you've got this double hinge here that keeps this backpack kibble on. There's a tab sticking out of that kibble, and that tab is mostly for when you're in robot mode. That fits in there and keeps this lined up for when you close this up. But that tab kind of gets in the way, so you got to kind of like pull up on this to make that tab go down. So you'd pull up on that just to angle some clearance out of that tab. There we go. And then it folds right in. One thing I do want to point out is that because of these features right here, when you've got the chest like this, it does not want to close up going into vehicle mode. So it's probably best to take this, flip this around, and put it back. Now these tabs right here fit into those slots, and it sits nice and flush like that. So that's how that works. Let's take his gun out. We don't need this at the moment. What we're going to do here is we're going to just grab his shoulders and pull on them. We're going to pull these away from the body. And we're just going to pull them away for now and then not worry about them for a few minutes. We're going to do the legs first. So to get the legs done, what you want to do is you want to take this panel here, pull that out. You want to extend out the hip like that so that you've got clearance, because this piece needs to go through here, and if you have the legs together, it won't fit. So we're going to bend this at the transformation joint, and at the same time this is going to kick the foot up. Oh, whoops. I probably should have. Alright, let's pretend I didn't do that for a moment. We want to take this panel right here and flip that up, and that exposes this. We're going to take this and move this up on this. You thought this was a double joint, it's actually like a triple joint. So move that up, and now we're ready to take this and turn this around, making sure we're moving at the transformation joint, not the knee joint. And this piece of kibble is the one that I was talking about that fits in between his legs. You got to make sure those legs are properly spread for that. Before you get too much farther in this mode, you want to make sure that you get this antenna out of the way. These antennas come separate in the box. You got to clip them on, but that's really easy. They just, you know, clip on with your basic sort of, it's not even a mushroom peg, it's just a peg. Clip that on. So now this guy here is going to fold around and around, and the back of this panel here is going to butt up against this knee feature here, just to keep everything aligned. Then we're going to take this and fold this around, and we're just going to leave this here for now. You can take this and you can fold this down on that hinge system, and it'll fold in flat like that. So you got the back of your Humvee. You're going to do the same with the other leg. Make sure that these legs are still spread. Dick plate guts get out of the way. We're going to bring this up. We're going to bring this up. Why not? We'll do it now. Fold that up. Extend out. Rotate around. Now we're going to take this and fold this in. Tuck this in behind that feature there on the knee. Fold that up. And there is his legs basically all done. You can tab those together, I believe. And you'll see that the dick plate fits in there quite nicely. Alright, so now in this position, we've got these arms out of the way. We're going to take this and fold this. You've got these two holes right here. You've got these two tabs right here. They're going to come around and just peg in like so. Like so. These panels, these modules here like to move around, but we're gonna keep those from moving around too much because they just get in the way. So now for this next part, what we're going to do is there's a series of hinges in here, and this one right here is a swivel. We're going to rotate it at that swivel joint. And then that swivel joint is going to come in, and it's going to come right up against this waist joint here. Let's take these fists, open up this panel here, fold them in, close aforementioned panel. Now what we've got here is a failure to communicate. No, not that. So what we've got here is going to be what's going to form up to the back of the car, the back and the top of the car. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend off this panel here, which was on the front of the shoulder, and then lift up this and extend that. So these arms will collapse all the way down. You can peg them together at this point. You can see the pegs right there. And then you'll see there's these two pegs that are on what was the back of the feet, and these two slots right here on the end of the arms. Plug those in like so. And now we're going to take these panels, we're going to pull them down. There you'll see this joint system in here. Pull that down and then flip this around. There's a peg here and a hole here. I'm going to put that peg into the hole, because that's where pegs like to go. Anyone can tell you that. Peg, hole, insert, etc., etc., etc. Now we're going to take this. You've got these two pegs on the bottom side of the windshields and corresponding slots down here. These are just going to tab in. You can do them individually because there's no tab between the windshield sections to keep them connected to each other. There's a slot here and a tab here. That tab is going to go into that slot. Which is the only part of this that is a little bit tricky, because once you get that into there, then you've got this little slot here fitting into that little tab there. And that's what that looks like when it's all done. So we're going to do it with this other side. Take this, do the one on the side, and then the one on the front. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this panel here, and it's going to pull out like this. That'll give us clearance to bring this around, and it's going to sit over this tab in here and this tab right here. Like that. Again with the other side, pull that out, rotate it around, put it into place. Last but not least, we're going to take these and extend them out. There's a couple little tabs here. They're going to fit over that tabs. Those tabs don't really fit into anything. They just fit over it. Kind of clean up the bottom of the vehicle. Get those hollows out of the way. Because keep in mind that the bottom of the vehicle is going to be the back of the leg in the Bruticus mode. So it's important to get that cleaned up. And here is Racket in his vehicle mode. Let me pull that down. He's got a couple tabs on, or holes on the top of the roof of his vehicle. You can plug his weapons into there so he can be all like fully armed. They'll rotate around, of course. He's got the cool little antennas here so he can make his phone calls for doing his deals. Some kind of fun things about this vehicle. You've got this molded in suspension here on a big old mushroom peg. So there's like a little bit of actual functional suspension here on the front wheels. It's actually like a spring suspension, and you've got this bar that keeps these together. So he's got some steering and a little bit of suspension. I think those are fun little features. I like features like that that are thrown into Transformers, especially if they don't get in the way of the function of the figure. Other features that are on this is you've got right here, this is the air intake for a Humvee, and that will extend out. Okay, that will honestly extend out. It's really difficult to get your fingers on there because, yeah. And that's a snorkel. It'll take in an actual vehicle. So you've got your air intake because, of course, engines are air-breathing machines. They take air and they mix it with fuel and they blow it up, and that's what makes everything work. And on an actual vehicle, wow, is it just me or does his face look crooked? That really does look crooked, doesn't it? That's really weird. This one is definitely recessed into that panel and it's molded that way, and this one is definitely not recessed and it's molded that way. That's weird. That is super weird. I just noticed that for the first time just now. You guys saw it live. Anyhow, so the snorkel, this allows them to be basically submerged in water up to here, and still pull air to make the engines work. That's a fun little feature. He's got functional windshield wipers. I mean, by functional, I mean that they move a little bit. That's worth the price of admission right there. And another feature that he's got is he has an opening hood. If I can get this open. This is kind of difficult. I should have brought my little tool for, whoa. We'll just do it that way. We'll just do it that way. He also has this panel that comes out. If you pull this out a little bit, it helps the clearance on the hood. I don't know exactly what this is for. See? He's got engine detail in there. That's cool. Concerning this panel on the back, so this part opens up, and that's fun. Get some cool engine detail in there. Like I said, I like these vehicles. I like my Transformers with actual like vehicle details. One of the things that I liked about the old Alternators line, one of the things I liked about like Masterpiece Starscream, is that he had all those real aircraft details. Anyhow, what I can tell you about this piece down here, if you fold this bumper in, whoa, my tripod slipped. If you fold this little bumper in right here, this part extends out, and this hinge fits right into this slot here. And when this is folded up on the back, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work. I was putting some speculation out about how that might be a function for the robot mode, but I'm guessing for the combined mode these are gonna... Oh, okay, now it's making more sense. Right. I think I'm so getting ahead of myself. Okay. Yeah, I think that I just inadvertently figured something out. But I'm so getting ahead of myself. We'll get into that at a later time. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Zeta Toys Racket. He's great. If you've been collecting the Zeta Toys Combaticons, then I'm sure you're probably going to pick this one up if you haven't picked it up already. If you haven't picked it up yet, that's where you should pick it up from. Drop him a line, see if he's got any, see if he can get one for you. But yeah, I mean his vehicle mode looks great, which has been sort of a trademark of the Zeta Toys Combaticon line. Great looking alt mode. But he looks fantastic.